is the issue of a government that has a serious trust deficit, doing things ostensibly for the good of the public, and the public are not walking the journey with that government. So the public is being informed at the tail end of a process. And that public then looks back and from history, from knowing what this and previous governments have done before, everything then just smells dirty. And the government knows that. Why is the government not trying to just make things right? Why bring Raila, for example, a heavy hitter, to come and say Adani is clean?
Of course, when you look at what they are doing, they are doing it for themselves, not for the people of Kenya. Because I can tell you, let's pick JKI, for example. We had the passenger levy, which was supposed to be used for development of the airport, which we've been paying since 2012, when Kibaki was president. On every ticket, there's a passenger levy. As at 2022, the passenger levy had collected 50 billion plus, already collected. And Kibaki's signed agreement with the Chinese was to build a new terminal, Greenfields terminal, at 55 billion Kenya shillings. In other words, our money will have funded it. If you got a soft loan, in 5-10 years' time, we will have paid it off and we'll be owning the terminal. But then somebody comes here and tells you, we are giving it to Adani. And Adani is going to invest allegedly 170 billion. When did they even do the feasibility study for the airport? Who gave them access to do a feasibility study? Where is that feasibility study? How does it move away from the Kibaki government signed 55 billion to now 170 billion? And then where does it come that we are giving you the airport for 30 years? When we had a model here that the contractor was building it, our passenger levy fee, we've been paying it until today, even today I'm paying it, could build for us a better airport. So it simply means that somebody is not interested in the public interest. It's not in the best interest of the people of Kenya. Because if you ask me, the Kibaki government agreement was the better agreement, because it was just, you come and you build, the entity remains KAS, the people of Kenya, but we'll pay for it from our own passenger levy, and we'll have a modern airport. But this one, you're giving an Indian an airport for 30 years without us having, in fact, you even put a caveat there, that at the end of the 30 years, you will even pay them some money, a concession, and you can even extend it for them. Why are you giving out the crown jewels? Crown jewels are meant to be protected. Next time, I tell you, these guys will even go and give out KDF if you're at this rate. Because if you start giving out all the crown jewels, what will stop you? Where do we draw the line? They may decide that we're giving mercenaries to run our KDF.
Willis, do you know the impact of actually handing over JKI in the manner that you have described? You are saying that even when it comes to the functions of the authority, that Adani will have a say.
Of course.
You are saying that when it comes to the controlling of flights and understanding of the security around flights, is that what we're saying, that all this will be handed to Adani?
Yes, go on.
Now, the problem with that is this: if that is the case, it doesn't just affect Kenya. Some of these things are shared facilities that our neighbors also have a say in.
Exactly.
So essentially, you've gone and given a foreign entity all these things. Now, so the security element goes out with the wind.
What happens in other jurisdictions where an airport is actually being privately handled?
There's what we call the state-owned airports, and then we have the privately owned airports. Okay? I'm yet to see a jurisdiction where an airport moves from state-owned to private. Normally, if a private entity, like the Netherlanders, have decided to put up their private airport, you'll even see in terms of the flights that are landing there, they're limited. Even the capacity, the installations that are put in that particular private airport are limited. The main air traffic control will still be at the main airport. But in this particular instance, we are giving over everything to Adani at JKIA. They are taking over management of that airport for 30 years. So which will be the alternative military airport, for example, for police?
They run the Hyderabad airport, for example, in India.
Yes.
Or let's even talk about the port of that Israel place. So it's called Haifa.
Haifa.
Right? in the case of the port of Haifa, because they are running the port of Haifa, what does that mean?
You know, when you talk of
Have you given
there's
up
management,
security?
there's management,
That's it.
there's management of the port,
Right.
but there's also what is called almost ownership of it. When you're a manager, it's like giving a cleaning company the right to, I mean, a real estate company, a realtor, that you manage for me my property, I collect rent, make sure the place is swept and everything is running.
Do the
That
repairs.
that is not what we gave Adani
What was it?
at the airport. We gave them the airport.
We give them control.
Control of the airport. Everything in the airport is under Adani. So even if you want to go and put your food kiosk at the airport, you will go and look for Adani, not KA today. If that was signed. That is what we have a problem with. We're not saying that we're bringing Adani to become the airport manager. We are giving them the entire airport. Even so, they are going to put up hotels there. What has hotels got to do with the airport? They are the ones going to collect rent from all those infrastructure development that are in the airport. That was part of what they're getting. So, and I'm asking, for what? What are we getting in return as the people of Kenya? We are getting nothing. So it only means that there's somebody somewhere who is getting more than the people of Kenya are getting. Because as I've told you, it's a question of money. We had enough money as at 2022 over 50 billion. We had a contract for 55 billion to build a new terminal in that same airport. Now we are just giving these Indians an entire airport to decide who walks in, who walks out, who is even employed. They say they'll even go and we beg them to employ your people. They can say, no, we don't want your staff, we are bringing Indians. And they can bring them and land them at JKI, you'll never see them. You'll only be meeting them as you are walking out, telling you bye-bye. But that is what we are saying. It's not in the best interest of the people of Kenya. And as City says, what about our regional obligations? What about shared facilities with the regional partners? Are we also going to subject them now to Adani?
And some of those shared facilities are also shared with the military.
Military, exactly.
And that becomes a problem. A
guys-
huge problem.
You guys can stretch this thing. Eh?
No, but
No, no.
took a vanini here at the airport.
You guys can really, as in
They have a
you
hang at the airport.
You've decided, so we can stretch. Let's stretch all the way.
But it's the truth. You see, that is why when it is
Aye.
done clandestinely, these are the questions we could have asked in public
But
participation.
everything,
What happens to
everything I said can be cross-checked.
this? Yes, it's a fact.
Hey, you people.
Eric, even if you're playing the devil's
Hey,
advocate,
you people.
sometimes when the devil is wrong,
There are
tell the
several
devil
entities
on this
that are involved in, for example, air traffic.
Yes.
Air traffic control.
There's
Yes.
the regulator,
Yes.
which is the Kenya
KKCA.
Kenya Civil Aviation Authority.
Yes.
That's in charge of the equipment, the tower, the navigation, right? The airspace, the landing and taking off.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
The airport staff are involved with the ground, okay? And managing that. Sindio?
That's true.
Yeah, but,
That is
so
true.
now where are we talking about it even who comes and
The reason why
who
that has
takes
to be
off or
brought into
lands?
the discussion, Eric, is for someone to explain to us that they are not.
What they are not. What happens to these ones?
Yes, because
That's what we are saying.
if you are taking all those things involve the airport.
Yes.
So what is it that is airport related that is not in the deal? That really is. Willis has his questions. I mean, this is mine. What else which is airport related, which is not in that deal? That
So
really is the question.
So the question comes back into the lack of transparency
Yes.
in
Yes.
the process.
Yes.
And that lack of transparency in the process then lends to all these questions.
Yes.
And very many things that people, for even if it's 2 years or 15 years or 33 years or 27 years, they'll always be there. The process that we arrive at to sign this contract with whichever contractor, whether we call this one Adani India or we call this company Willis and CT. As long as there was no transparency, people of Kenya will look at it and say, "Na huyu Willis,
Ametoka wapi?
ametoka wapi? Huyu anajuana na nani?" Unajua hii airport, there'll be stories.
Then you find Raila defending us.
Then now Raila defends
If we were to use,
Raila is defending Otieno Muga.
if we are, so we know where that has come from. If we were to look at the history of this country and why the trust deficits now sort of like peaks, is when we look at the SGR. What were we told about the SGR and the promises of the SGR?
Yeah. Where are they?
The reality is you're more or less paying for a dodo, okay?
Yeah.
And you are paying steeply.
Steeply.
That was not the promise.
Yes.
That was not the promise. So now, if someone comes up with a project that reminds you of the SGR, even if it is good, your first reaction is no.
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 Answer all the questions.
Please answer all the questions
Before
first
we start.
b- before we go anywhere
And
else.
more so because you are ceding control.
Yes.
If you told me that we are just doing an open tender, someone come and build and transfer back to us, you are not operating.
And we pay them over 30 years.
We pay them over that. In fact, why can't they say, we'll give you 200 billion, we build this terminal, it remains your terminal, you continue managing the airport using KA, and we'll pay you after 30 years, over 30-year period. Because what is good for the goose must be good for the gander. If they want us to wait 30 years, we can as well build and we'll pay Adani within 30 years. We spread it, we stretch it.
More importantly, if you look at the HR issues here, you say you are coming in, you're taking control. Just transparency. What happens to people who work at JKI?
The KA employees.
Okay? It's not that they haven't been taken care of, but we don't know. And so long as one doesn't know, that is fodder for conspiracy.
So why do you think the government is not addressing these issues? Because, look, from the moment the questions emerged in the public, right? From the moment they emerged, they went to Parliament, they went to the National Assembly, to the Senate. The statements that were coming out, first from the Prime Cabinet Secretary, then from KAA, then from the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Transport, and all this, there are answers that they're not giving. Why do you think they're not giving those answers? Is it that they're not seeing the importance of some of these questions? Or is it that they just don't have answers to some of these questions?
These questions that are being asked are exposing the scam that Adani Deal in JKI is. And anybody who will try to give you a reasonable answer will expose, because it's a question that the answer is obvious. Why did you go this long route? Why didn't you consider these employees? How are you going to transfer them? Why 30 years? Why Adani? When these questions are asked and you expect a plausible answer, the executives are going to tie themselves up. So they don't want to answer. I believe the call came from somewhere that we need to push this deal. So nobody's going to go on public record to have answered those questions or to have given a plausible reason. But if this thing was cooked properly, and by cooking properly, I mean if we went to the public from the beginning and we engaged the public and all the stakeholders in this aviation sector on this need for a new terminal.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes run this country as if William Ruto just woke up and became president, that there was no Kenya before, that he came with the country. No, there was Kenya before William Ruto became president. And part of that Kenya had a document called the Vision 2030 Blueprint. In that Vision 2030, there was the issue of the airport expansion. In fact, even before Vision 2030 was done, Kenya Airways had done what is called the Mawingu Project, flagship, which had also designed and seen that in the future we need to expand JKIA, and was selling it to government. Kibaki's government bought it. They put it in the blueprint for Vision 2030. And even the models of developing it were all there. And it all spoke to, it will be an open tender, it will be awarded, the capacity will be enhanced from 1 million passengers per year. Our target is we need to get to 30 million passengers by that time, 2030. But William Ruto comes in, and it's like Kibaki was never president, that he was never in that cabinet of Kibaki, which discussed this Vision 2030 things. He was there in that cabinet. He ignores it and comes up with his own little baby, a baby that doesn't have a head, does not have a leg. We don't know if it's a human or it's an animal, and just tells us, hand over to a Muindi. Where did this Muindi come in? Because if he was using the Vision 2030, which is part of now a policy document for the Republic of Kenya, you will have seen that there's no chance there for a Muindi to come and take over JKIA. What is there that the Kenyan people have committed to is an expansion of JKIA, and the model of funding it, we are going to do open tender. KA will continue existing, and KA will manage that airport. No single employee was going to leave. If anything, the new terminal was going to be a promise of more jobs to Kenyans through KAA. Now we are reduced to not even securing what we have. We are reduced to going to beg Indians that please don't sack our people, don't fire our employees. This Indian thing is bad. And if you go to the energy sector, I'm just looking here at Bangladesh. When Adani took over their power plant, power operation, their debt now on power alone, energy alone, they increased the rates, the tariffs, is now $800 million US. Part of why that government, the lady was toppled, was because of the issue of power. Who was the main power supplier? Adani. I mean, if that is what William Ruto needs for us to also go back to the streets by giving Adani our power sector, then maybe that is a godsend. We should wait for it. He will be called to answer, what is this obsession with this Muindi? No, you have to. No, no. Listen.
Let me tell you.
Listen.
You can continue. I'm just uncomfortable with the way you're terming it. It's derogatory.
No.
Just
okay. If somebody called me a black man, I'm a black man.
With the Indian company.
Okay, with the Indian company.
Yes.
But
please.
the director of that company
Yes,
is a Muindi. But let me say this.
Yes.
Let me say this.
You're not saying that he's
When-
a Jaluo lawyer.
No. I'm a Jaluo lawyer. That one is
But
badge of
how you put it.
because
It's the
listen,
context.
no, the point is because
get my
of
point.
I get your point. The point
Yes,
is the
so let's
context. But I'm
continue.
saying this. The main issue is this: when they decide that they're laying the red carpet for this particular entity, foreign entity. Let me call him foreign entity. Laying a red carpet of this foreign entity, that whatever they want, they get. We've not even spoken about Shifsha and their influence all over there. Because in Shifsha, Eric, the sad thing in this country today, in fact, what my heart cries out for, are those kidney dialysis patients who had been up to date in paying their NHIF. Then somebody wants to spend over 100 billion to transit from NHIF to Shifsha. And right there again, you find this foreign entity somewhere along the way. And now, the NHIF kidney dialysis patients cannot get dialysis. Now, 4 weeks, they have not gotten dialysis. Some are not able to pay. There's a lady who died. She could not raise 9,500 for dialysis. She's dead. What is this even promise of a better future, even if we got it right? Was there no redundancy period to make sure that even as we transit to this Shifsha nonsense, we are able to accommodate those who are already in dire need of healthcare services? So you are seeing a foreign entity that walks into Kenya and every sector it wants, everything is being bent backwards to accommodate it, including even if it's going to lead to deaths of Kenyans. And I'm giving you the example of those who are moving from NHIF, the dialysis patients who have not been catered for in the transition period. They can die and the government doesn't care.
You know, this problem that we speak of is not a William Ruto problem. If you go back to the Kibaki era, did we actually prosecute to conclusion the Anglo-leasing issue? We lost money there, didn't we?
You see,
Yes, I'm going through a list of things that have happened. So if you're talking about public apathy, it's with reason. There's a history of it. You're talking about the Uhuru era. Take your pick. Are you going to talk about the SGR? What are you going to talk about? The Mawingu project? Just take your pick. Things that we were told were going to benefit the country, but somehow it just fizzled out. So what the William Ruto government has done, they've come with their own. Public apathy has been growing. It may have reached a crescendo here, but it's been growing. It didn't start with this government. It has been there, and it has been growing and growing. And the only thing that marks the Uhuru and the William Ruto era is the boldness with which they have proceeded with these things. It's like they know they will get away with it, so they simply do it.
Well, it's in 30 seconds, about a minute though. What's a public reprieve? I mean, because clearly, Traco deal has been signed. This one with JKIA. All indicators are showing that this train left the station, is about to reach its destination.
One thing I can assure Kenyans is this. These things will not go unchecked. And they're going to be challenged. And Adani and his local acolytes will lose. There is no difference from Gupta in South Africa. Gupta also took over the entire state. There was state capture. Adani is doing state capture in Kenya. And the Kenyan people should not relent. At the right time, those who've enabled this state capture will be called to justice, and they must answer for what they've done to this republic. Those who've died as a result of this failed NHIF shift share transfer, they must be accounted for. And we must call executives to account. That is a promise that I make to the people of Kenya, that in as much as it may look like it's not possible today, but all these things will fail. The writing is on the wall. On the 25th of June, Mene Tekel, the writing was on the wall in regard to this regime. The people of Kenya cancelled it. This trying to sell our crown jewels is part of trying to run away from the debt default. They are now trying to get our sovereignty. Their time is up.
Willis Otieno, thank you very much for joining us, Wakili. Keep it here for more conversations. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Sugar and spice.